Hi, and here we are at the fourth video of the mixed models series. Here I'm going to talk about what I'm calling the two-stage temptation. Last time I introduced the two-stage summary statistics approach, and it's tempting to think you can just analyze the data in those two stages. And sure enough, for those of you from the fMRI world or the neuroimaging world, that's typically the approach that we take. So what I'm setting us up for is to understand when this is an okay idea and when it's a bad idea. Just to give you a little bit of setup about the type of data I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about reaction time measured at multiple times for each subject, but we're not looking at a slope. As I showed earlier with the sleep study type data, it's the same data structure, but we're ignoring the slope over time. We're just going to focus on estimating means, so the average reaction time within subject, as well as the group mean. And the setting here is also different. The sleep study data, the subjects had balanced data, but in order to understand the differences between the two-stage summary statistics approach and using an all-in-one mixed model, they will differ when your subjects do not have the same amount of data. So you have some subjects with a lot of data and some with very little. There is an R markdown that goes with this talk. You'll find it there's a link in the description box, not this link here, because this link is, unless you're using my computer, why are you using my computer? Yeah, that link is only in my computer. But I do recommend you download this HTML to your computer and then open it, because it won't view well in Dropbox. But I'm going to go through this in this video, but this is here for your, in the actual R Markdown RMD files there too, if you want to change any of these settings or tinker around with it, and I highly recommend doing so. Okay, also the videos do kind of build off of each other, although I do try to kind of mention the important things from the previous video that you need to know for this. So if you haven't watched the other ones, I will put a little link up here that you can click that'll take you to the playlist, and you can just go through those. And I do try to keep each video under 20 minutes. So it's the perfect lunch break video. So what is the goal of this little mini lesson? Well, I want to explain what the two-stage summary statistics modeling approach is. And as I said earlier, one of the things that's going to cause you to get different results with the two-stage summary statistics modeling approach, which I will explain, is when you have data where you have some subjects, which I'm showing here with these sort of uneasy faces, and these are subjects who have less data. So you can imagine there's some measure, and I've summarized that measure for each of the subjects, and that's what I'm plotting here, is a within subject measure summary. And then you have other subjects with more data, so they're indicated by the smiling faces. So again, those subjects don't have much data, and happy faces do. So the primary difference is this idea of regularization, and you'll often see, not even that often, but you'll find things on the web that are like, oh, mixed models has regularization, it's taking subjects with less data and it regularizes them, and it sounds great, but it's important to understand what exactly that is and to understand whether or not it would impact your analyses. So let me explain just generally what regularization is. There's some group estimate of your measure, so I'm indicating that with this green line here. So this is the group mean of our measure. And what regularization does is it takes kind of a vanilla estimate for each subject, say just the within subject average, and what the regularization will do is it's going to stabilize the estimates of the subjects with less data by shrinking their estimates toward the group mean. And you can see these other subjects, the happy face subjects, this shrinkage is less. So this last subject and this first subject, they started off in almost the same place, but the regularization was greater for, or the shrinkage was greater for the subject with less data. So we're going to eventually have a closed form equation that actually tells us the degree of the shrinkage. Not today, but coming up. I also really want to talk about conditional mode-based subject-specific estimates, or BLUPs. That's the other term. They're imperfect, which is actually really important. They're not the perfect way to illustrate regularization, but they're pretty much what we have. So interestingly, these estimates I'm showing here, these regularized estimates that the mixed model is using, they aren't actually estimated. So it's a sort of magical thing where the regularization is done, but without actually estimating subject-specific estimates. That's not what a mixed model does. But you can force it to spit out subject-specific estimates, and that's what these conditional modes are. So more about that. I'm just previewing what I'm going to talk about in more detail in this video. And setting the stage for future topics. Is this regularization good? It's always presented as a good thing, but is it a good thing, or could it hide results? What if my patients have less data than my control subjects? Is that regularization going to remove my patient versus control difference? Okay, so back to the two-stage model, which I'm showing again. It's not going away, so really this is the same equation that I've been repeating, or the same set of equations that I've been repeating, and there won't be too many more. This is the first level model. In this case, this will be reaction times for subject I. This is just going to be a column, or this is just a column of ones, and then the mean for subject I, the error. And then here, each subject's reaction time average is combined to get a group estimate. We have the between subject variability in the G matrix and the within subject variability in sigma squared. So why don't we just use these two stages to estimate the data? In other words, first actually calculate beta 1 for each subject, the mean within subject, and then at the second stage, average those averages. So I'm going to show what those two stages look like in R. And again, this will be in that markdown file that I shared. So stage 1, since in this case I'm just looking at average reaction time, this first loop is marching through each subject, and it's estimating the mean reaction time for that subject using a linear model. So here I'm just extracting the data for this ith subject, running the linear regression, and then grabbing the intercept from that model, which will be the mean. And then at the second stage, I'd run a linear regression with just an intercept in it. This is equivalent to a one sample t-test. And then I get this result. So the average reaction time is 251, and it's statistically significant. Mind you, this is not the most interesting hypothesis test. I don't know what study would do. The reaction time wouldn't be significantly different from 0, but just using it as an example. Okay, so why wouldn't we do that? There's a lot of reasons. Just a couple. Not all random effect structures can be addressed very well in this two-stage summary statistics approach, which I'm just going to call 2SSS or 2SSS. Sometimes it's hard to incorporate both within subject variables and between subject variables. Replacing that true beta I with estimates has negative repercussions. It causes the variance estimate to be incorrect, typically underestimated. And mixed models are just one line of code. It's funny, I often motivate why we shouldn't do something because, well, statistical assumptions aren't being met and things aren't as powerful or whatever. And really, maybe the biggest motivator is the fact that I could replace everything on that previous slide with just one line of code to run the proper mixed model, which I'll illustrate later. And there's also this other reason about this built-in regularization. Spoiler, it is generally a good thing. There are things you can do wrong using mixed models to give you those within subject estimates and then using those. But generally, if you're just using the mixed model, this regularization is good and helpful. So, well, what the heck is this regularization? Basically, your subjects with less data are going to contribute less to the group estimate than subjects with more data. That makes sense. It's more likely that subjects with less data are going to have more highly variable estimates than subjects with more data. And again, this is just the beginning of this discussion. We're going to keep looking at this in the next few videos. So, the regularization that I showed you with that illustration with the faces earlier was focusing on subject-specific estimates. But where the heck do we get subject-specific estimates from the mixed model in order to see the regularization? So recall previous, as I've said before, the subscript I is what helps us zero in on anything that's specific to a subject. So yi specific to a subject. In this case, it's a vector containing the reaction times for the ith subject. Zi and ai are design matrices, so they will change. AI is always the identity for now. Again, I'm going to keep including it because eventually I will go over designs where AI is not the identity matrix, but Zi is just the within subject design matrix. In this case, it is just a column of ones. So Zi will vary from subject to subject according to how many data points they had. And then here's Zi again. It's the same Zi. And then there's Bi. So this is tempting because this Bi looks like a subject-specific thing that's being added to the overall group mean. And so in this case, to relate it to the data we're looking at, this is the group reaction time. This is subject's I's column of reaction time. So this is the group reaction time that we're estimating. And this looks like it would be how that ith subject deviates from the group. And then you have the within subject variance term. Well, the thing is, Bi is not a term that we're actually estimating. Bi is a random variable. So remember, Bi is just describing the between subject variance in this case, the reaction time. It's not something we estimate. And if you think about anything you ever do with distributions, you don't say, oh, can you estimate that distribution? No, the focus is on estimating the parameters of the distribution. It doesn't then tell you what the random variable is because it's not any one thing. It's a distribution of values. And then we have the within subject variance. So again, the parameters that are actually estimated are highlighted here. This is the group, in this case, mean for reaction time. This is the between subject variance in reaction time, and this is the within subject variance in reaction time, which is pooled over all the subjects. So, I already said this. We don't estimate Bi, we estimate G, which is just a variance term. It doesn't tell us the ith subject's average reaction time. So, what we can do, though, is we can build that distribution gosh darn it, I'm forgetting the book. I reference it in the markdown file. But the author of the LME library has written books. His name's going to come to me in like 2 seconds. But he doesn't like the word BLUP, and you'll hear the word BLUP. And the reason is because it stands for Best Linear Unbiased Predictor. And he says, best in what sense? So there's not really a way that it's the best. There's not really a way that it's unbiased. And so he doesn't feel it's a good way of describing it. So that was a good enough argument for me. So I'm adapting the terminology he uses, which is conditional mode-based estimate. So conditional mode is perfectly descriptive of these within subject estimates that we can get from LMER. Douglas Bates, that's the author's name. Okay, so you'll see the word BLUP all over the place, but Douglas Bates uses conditional mode. That's what I'm using. So what you do is you're going to build a distribution and then use the mode of that distribution for your estimate. If it's a symmetric distribution, like a Gaussian distribution, the mode is equivalent to the mean. But if you think about other distributions like chi-square, the mode isn't the mean, but this is focusing on the mode, or where the data are concentrated in that, or where the values are concentrated in that distribution. Okay, so the way that's done is you condition on y to get a distribution for beta, and then you use the mode of that distribution as a prediction for subject i's beta. So we're not estimating anything, we're actually predicting the ith subject's value. And we're predicting it, this estimate that we're going to get, it's not like typical estimate, it's not like an estimate that we get in a linear regression that has a standard error and a p-value and things like that, because we're actually estimating that value. Here we're predicting it based on a distribution, and that distribution is based on a bunch of estimates. So we have to use the estimate of beta and the estimate of g and the estimate of sigma squared in order to do this prediction. So what we're going to see is these are useful in terms of kind of visualizing what happens, but they're very dramatic, and you should not use these in estimates. And that'll become more clear over the next few lessons. Okay, so this is very similar to the data simulation last time. I'm just simulating data, but with just without the slope, just with reaction time. So there's 10 subjects. The between subject standard deviation is 10. The mean is 250. So I generate the means for each subject. And then the between subject standard deviation is 20. I have 50 observations for all subjects except, so all the subjects are smiley faces except for the first 5. They're only going to have 5 observations. So those will be the frowny, uneasy faces, the first 5 subjects. And then I just go through and simulate the data. So you can spend some more time with that code on your own and tinker around with it. So here's a plot of what the simulated data look like. Again, I'm using data simulation because then we know what the truth is. That's what makes it a helpful tool. And later on, we're going to use these simulations to calculate type 1 error in power, and that's the only way you can calculate type 1 error in power is if you run simulations. Okay, so you'll see these first 5 subjects, they have very little data, and the rest of the subjects in this case, it's just 5 more, have a lot of data. 50 versus 5 observations per subject. So here's the 2-stage model. Stage 2, this is stage 2 output. I left out the stage 1 loop, which I showed you earlier, and you can see the estimate's 251.754 again, and the standard error and the p-value. Here's the proper mixed model, which just again, it's just one line of code. This other approach, the 2-stage summary statistics approach, I had to have a loop prior to this, and then the second model. Mixed model is just one line of code. So we can see here, maybe I highlight it. No, I did not. Under random effects, you can see we get 6 here and 20 there compared to 20 and 10. So the between subject variance was set to 10, the within subject variance was set to 20, and you can see our standard deviations, and you can see we're pretty close. And you can see the estimates are very close. I have 253 versus 251. The degrees of freedom, so remember I said before, you can kind of envision your model as doing these within subject averages and then a one sample t-test on those. So the degrees of freedom for that would be 9. Because I had 10 subjects, I lost a degree of freedom for estimating my parameter. And sure enough, that's what it is in the linear regression model. But here you see it's less than 9, and that's because partially probably due to the fact that the subjects don't have balanced data. So again, the more you focus on degrees of freedom, it'll help build your intuition as to whether or not it makes sense. If I forgot to put my random effect structure in here correctly, my degrees of freedom would have been closer to something like 50 or 60, something really big, the number of observations. Okay, and you can see the p-values are similar. This one's a little bit bigger than this one. So it's tempting to think, oh, well, that worked just fine. You know, why can't I just use that 2-stage model instead? And again, we're going to explore that more as time goes on. So there is a way to get those conditional modes out. It's using the coef function on the LMER object. And then you have to do a little work to pull out the actual values. So here what I'm showing are the within subject means, just the stage 1 of the 2-stage summary statistics approach. That output's shown in blue. And the orange are these conditional modes from the mixed model. So mixed model conditional modes. That's what MMCM stands for. Now recall the average in the mixed model, 253, is the estimate. So that's what things will be biased toward. So I don't think I have a line on here, but 253 is roughly here. So that's what the shrinkage is heading toward. And sure enough, you can see that. Remember, the first 5 subjects had only 5 data points, and so their regularization is very strong toward 253, whereas the last 5 subjects, they had 50 observations, 10 times as much data, and the regularization is much less. So specifically, subject 9 versus subject 1, they're starting off at the same level, but since the regularization is stronger for subject 1, their estimates pulled further toward 253. Another thing to notice, just focusing on these last 5 subjects who all had the same amount of data, the regularization is applied according to a ratio. So you can see the larger the value is, the more it moves. The smaller the value, the less it moves. We'll get to the closed form equation that explains the relationship between the blue and the orange dots in this specific scenario in a few videos. So the takeaway from this is just understand that there is regularization in the mixed model. I am using these conditional modes to help illustrate it, but it's a kind of a dramatization of what the mixed model is actually doing, and it can be a little misleading. You shouldn't use them in analyses, and that's what, again, the future videos are going to focus on, specifically using type 1 error rates and power to evaluate that. So, can this regularization hurt us? What if, again, these first 5 subjects were my control subject or patients and the second 5 were my controls? Is this regularization going to remove my effect? So that's a really good question that a colleague of mine had asked as I was teaching her mixed models, and I thought it was a great question because her patients always have less data than her control group. What does it do to our power? Does it hurt type 1 errors? And how worried should we be? So the good news is, just foreshadowing, if you're staying completely within the mixed model framework, you're fine. If you're running a 2-stage summary statistics approach, you're okay sometimes, but not others. If you're running a mixed model, then extracting conditional modes and then running analyses on those, you're not fine ever. So again, all those details will be covered in the future. So if you have questions, the best place again for those is the Mumford Brain Stats Facebook group. I'm also on Twitter, just Mum Brain Stats, if you want to post things there. And of course, subscribe to this channel if you want to be notified when new videos are posted. You have to hit that alarm bell thingy-majiggy too if you want to actually get the notifications. And no, I don't make any money off these videos. If you are seeing ads, you shouldn't be. Let me know if you do, because these are supposed to be free of ads, and I'm not looking to make money off of them. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.